This video was sponsored by Dashlane. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my review of Spyfall, the newest story in the Doctor Who compendium. I was never big on the James Bond movie Skyfall. The only Bond movie I've truly enjoyed is Casino Royale, and every other movie produced since has been subpar at best. I decided to do a little digging on these two Doctor Who episodes though, and found that they were solely produced to generate buzz for the release of the new No Time to Die movie in April. I have also received specialist intelligence that one of the gadgets that will be used in the upcoming film will be Dashlane, a digital password and wallet manager. Spies and customers alike are reporting peace of mind when making their internet a one-click experience. Never again will you need to remember that overly long password of yours or spend ages filling out personal and payment information for online forms. With the app's unique password generator, you'll never get an awkward situation like this.
Yes. He hacked us.
And if you need to do some hacking of your own, or just want to browse the internet safely and privately on Wi-Fi networks, Dashlane has a built-in VPN with over 25 different locations. And the best part is, there's no credit card required when you sign up. If you want to support the channel and get some awesome software, download Dashlane for free on your device today by clicking on the link below, where you'll receive a 30-day trial of Dashlane Premium. Now, without further ado, let's get on with the review. Our adventure begins with 3 MI6 spies being killed by monsters crawling through the walls. Whilst the promise of a new spooky monster kept me interested, it's a shame this opening didn't really escalate in any way. By the time the third bloke sat down, I could almost guess what was going to happen. This also nullified the individuality of these 3 spies, but don't worry, they weren't what I'd call important in the grand scheme. We then jumped to some lovely companion catch-up.
Appendicitis, right? That's why we ain't seen you.
Oh, yeah.
And the hernia before that.
Oh, yeah, that was bad.
And that detached retina.
Some friend of yours, Ryan. He can't even identify when you're so obviously lying. Yaz's catch-up is just a clusterfuck. We have some oh-so-relatable normie joke about parents not being able to use Alexa, whilst her sister nags at her about getting Ryan's phone number whilst trying to talk to her mum. How is anybody supposed to focus on anything here? They could have cut this pointless bit out and just have her talking to her colleague/line manager. Yaz going undercover with the Doctor made sense for her character and fitted in with the spy-themed narrative. Meanwhile, Dr. Mark Hamill sees Graham about his broken hip or something, who is just as hilarious as ever. Speaking of time wasting, I thought the car killing the driver thing was a load of old tosh. Haven't we already had the whole sat-nav trying to kill their drivers thing before? And god, the in 5 seconds die thing sounded like something a child would write. The car had so many opportunities to kill them all, i.e. colliding with oncoming traffic. I know that in part 2 it's revealed this was just a bit of fun for the Master, but it still looks underwhelming despite aiming for intensity. Fortunately, the sound of Stephen Fry's majestic voice puts the story back on track, allowing our characters to meet up with him at MI6. Unfortunately, the scene trips itself up seconds into it.
The Doctor is a man.
I've had an upgrade.
In any other context, this might have been funny, but the joke backfires somewhat because when you say upgrade in Doctor Who, that's generally considered a bad thing. The Doctor being female is a change, not an improvement. The improvement comes with making the show innovative and interesting. You know, things that the rest of the production team are responsible for, which hasn't really happened. So you kinda shot yourself in the foot there, didn't you, Chibnall? You made an attempt at rebutting your critics, and you just made yourself look more pompous than ever. C then shows the gang one of the victims we saw in the opening. Once more, we have some great telling not showing where the Doctor just says that this agent is no longer human. No evidence of such a conclusion is shown to us, so we just move on to the next scene, I guess? C takes them all into his office and dishes out some gadgets. Can't see Dashlane anywhere here, no wonder their
Systems got hacked.
They introduced the CEO of Vor, not to be confused with that depravity, a giant corporation renowned for technology. I'm sure most of you watching will have at some point in your life sat through a class presentation where at least one person simply reads the text from their slideshow. Boring, isn't it? Well, this is literally what happens in this scene.
Right now, Vor is more powerful than most nations.
A sexual fetish is more powerful than most nations. You've got to actually prove statements like this on TV, otherwise you just come across as cheap. Then another curveball gets thrown at the audience regarding O. Please tell me what is so funny about saying the word crisis over and over again, unless perhaps you're a child? The French kisses thing fell flat on its face too. Then Stephen Fry gets assassinated, which I reckon he personally requested to the producers.
These people, these rat packs.
I did like the look of the monsters though. The ones with Queen Victoria and the Union Jack on their faces made them look genuinely creepy and interesting. It escalated further as well when they all retreat to the TARDIS. The fact this monster was ready to break into the TARDIS means they are a force to be reckoned with. The way their bodies try to crawl through physical spaces makes them really eerie too. Unfortunately, the monsters stop being scary once they become bright white lights. The appearance of a transparent being coming through was far more intriguing, and its lack of speech added to its alienness. Of course, it had to go and open its mouth and reveal what it wants. Great. Can't wait for that plan to be foiled, like every other time anybody has ever been after quote-unquote the universe. The characters then get split up, which was actually a really great idea. Finally, Yaz can put those police skills to good use. She takes after the Doctor as well, making her a far more recognisable individual in this story than just a tag-along. It certainly felt a bit meta as well, having Lenny Henry actually show up in a Doctor Who episode. You guys should totally check out his Doctor Who sketch from the 80s if you haven't already. It's genuinely hilarious. Even Ryan taking a photo with the lens cap on had me giggling a bit. The scene isn't exactly consequential and ends rather abruptly with Barton inviting the pair over to his birthday party without even telling them where it is or what time to show up. I didn't mind the introduction of O so much. It was a nice jab at the ridiculous naming of MI6 staff that are named a single letter. The reveal that O is the Master, however, makes a lot more sense upon a rewatch. Harold Saxon in his campaign promised the people of Britain answers for the alien encounters they've had to deal with, and here the Master is also hiding behind the facade of a disgraced alien expert. Having just the Doctor and Graham in this scene really kept the energy up as well. Outside, the pair get caught into an argument over their safety. It really upped the ante seeing the Doctor being cut aside for this moment, and then to see the security killed and surrounded was great too. The cherry on the cake was this line here.
Is he just here for the running commentary?
I don't mind these sections in the giant kelp wilderness too much either. The idea that you can be banished to a place of nothingness is a daunting prospect, and it almost gives off this stuck at the bottom of the ocean vibe, which would also be a terrifying place to be. I just kind of wished that we didn't see it for ourselves until the end when the Doctor ends up trapped there. It kind of nullifies Yaz's expressions of fear seen shortly afterwards too, which was also a really great bit for me. O, ironically, starts giving us a smeg load of dialogue about what Vor is and what they do. It's still extremely vague and sounds to me like he's just describing every other tech company on the planet. It's not interesting and still doesn't give us much to visualize to make Vor unique in any way. It's then decided they're all going to Barton's party, even though only 2 of them were invited. I guess it wouldn't be very Skyfall if they didn't. Then we have this absolutely hilarious moment where O gets to see the TARDIS. It's so overly dramatic and pointless, with the dramatics beginning again when they arrive at the party. This moment was so obviously made for the trailers, but it just gets absurd when they all start gambling. This sequence was just pure lame. The gang do such an awful job at blending in. The Doctor's snap gag was probably the worst offender, which I'm not even sure was the point, because it's not like anybody does any real spy work while they're here. To me, it just looks like they're all having the time of their lives whilst the Doctor confronts Barton like a really bad journalist. Where are all his friends? Why would he be alone at his own birthday party?
Remember our trip to the Great Callisprum Bake-Off?
No, we don't. Please, please don't make us relive that memory that's probably best left to the recesses of the mind. For fuck's sake. This sequence looks outright terrible. The shots of the actors are all at the same angle, intercut with some shots that aren't half bad if it wasn't so obvious that they aren't the riders of these bikes. They don't even catch up to him in the end, so it was all just for the trailers again. again. So Barton gets on his private jet, which he flies himself without any security or a pilot, and I'm just sat there thinking somebody needs to show the producers of Doctor Who that video of Jeffree Star in his private jet with Shane Dawson. Does he fly the plane himself? No! He sits back and drinks his goddamn Red Bull like a champ! The one thing that catches the Master out though is that he was the last of the fam to board the plane. At first I was like, why the hell is Graham faster than this guy? And then it dawned on me that the fam are notorious for
running up and down corridors.
And this hermit would logically be a bit out of shape. But for some reason, O's file says he's a champion sprinter. This bizarre bit of dialogue makes the reveal feel so forced and sudden that it's hard to really believe that this guy is genuinely the Master. There was literally one clue that this guy could have been him. And it was surprising, don't get me wrong, but you can't just have your audience feel like they've been tricked into accepting a twist. I didn't watch this thinking, oh my god, that makes so much sense. I was too busy thinking, I knew this guy was a friend of Dorothy's.
I have had a lot of fun.
Great, now we have two childish Time Lords to deal with.
Snap!
And that bomb reveal? Why was that even necessary? It wasn't that long ago I was moaning about the Master's spontaneous bomb being in Martha's flat, and now the same thing has happened again. Except here, it's even more pointless, because he could have just had the four thrown out of the plane to their deaths. What's worse is that Yaz, the bloody police officer, doesn't even attempt to restrain the Master. There are so many opportunities for characters to make genuine decisions to make it dramatically interesting, and instead Barton disappears and is replaced with a bomb. Literally, the final note I wrote for part 1 is, part 2 has a lot of explaining to do. Let the spy fall. Oh, Chris Chibnall, did it suck? This really is a mixed bag episode. The monster was promising. Yaz didn't feel entirely pointless. Some cool ideas were thrown about, especially that of splitting the group up. Who'd have thought that would prove so innovative? I think how it starts and ends is where most of the problems lie. It's still riddled with expository dialogue despite being fully aware of it. There's some really bland humor throughout too, and the party bike plane sequence is chock full of cringe. It's not awful, but it's not great either. So, I'm giving Spyfall Part 1 a 4 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Please consider supporting these reviews on Patreon, where you can view videos a day early, get access to my scripts, and maybe even get a request video. What did you think of Spyfall? Leave a comment below your thoughts, or join us on my Discord server, where I will continue this discussion.